everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
LaWanda.
And Tiffany.
Of course, I'm the only male voice here. I'm Ron.
And today we are here to talk about The Chi. This is episode 7 of season 3, called A Stain. So if you guys hang tight, we will be right back to discuss with you.
One burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him. Swear that's the truth. So you can't trust that
All right, we are back. And like I said, we're talking about The Chi. I really enjoyed this episode. Your boy Ronnie.
Well, what can I say?
He's the big winner.
He has been vindicated, to an extent.
He came to an extent, like he broke the door down, but then Keisha had to finish him.
Well, what did I say? Didn't I say last week that he needed reinforcements? That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I mean, he did save the day. He gets credit for that because he found her. But the butt kicking that he took, I knew that was going to happen. That's why I thought he should have come back with reinforcements. But I know that he didn't really have time for that.
Well, also remember, I said he was going to get back to that drinking. And so, he gets back to that drinking. And then, but that was a butt kicking well-deserved. I mean, if you ever had to take it, take a whooping, that's what he did. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Keisha did too.
Yeah, but all that, he's military and all that. You see where they got him, right?
Yeah, he must have been the cook or something like that in the military.
Yeah, Ronnie was struggling this episode to fight off Omari. And it looked like Omari might have actually gotten beaten to death. I'm not sure if he actually died or not. That's one thing that kind of like was a cliffhanger for me, because I'm like, well, did he actually die?
Well, I can tell you, initially it looked like she was beating him on the back, but then we heard that crack and a splatter on her face of blood. Mm-hmm. That only could have come from the head. So if he's not dead, he's seriously injured.
Yeah. I think he is, because the way the screen went to black afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think and another thing, that the title, A Stain, I wasn't familiar with this, but my son was giving me some insight on the names for the Chicago lingo, and he said that reference, a stain, refers to someone getting murked or killed. Mm. So I was like, okay, it probably is. He probably is dead.
I guess the stain on the ground or something. The blood stains on the ground.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I did enjoy this episode. I was a little worried about Nina and Dre. That bothered me a bit, because I'm not certain if Dre was really, I mean, I can understand it's only been 2 months and she was ready to move forward. I don't think 2 months is that long a time.
It isn't.
Yeah. She forced that. It was too soon, like Nina said.
She was out of
like, it's inconsiderate.
Mm-hmm. And then to force the issue by going above her.
When she packed up the room, and that's the thing. I mean, when you're a mother or when you're a parent, period. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. Your son was like, she's out of pocket here.
It didn't seem like it was coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready for you to move on. That was like, okay, we haven't found my child yet. We're not ready to move on.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was selfish.
Like Kevin being neglected. I'm like, Kevin is doing his own thing. Like, of course he's going through his own internal struggles, but it's not like she's completely forgotten about Kevin. They just threw him this really great birthday party last episode. They're paying attention to Kevin. So I was like, that was kind of out of the blue for Dre to just be like, oh yeah, we need to pack it up because you keep coming in here. Like, what do you expect a grieving mother to do?
And particularly since we didn't know whether she was dead or not. It'd been one thing if she was dead, and then I can halfway understand what Dre was trying to portray here. But I mean, we didn't know whether she was dead or not. And even if she had been dead, you got to give her time to grieve. And if it takes a year, let it be a year. It's something that she has to deal with, not you, not Dre.
Yeah, right. It's like how is holding out hope is inconsistent with packing up her room.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
those two things don't go together. So yeah, I think anybody watching was kind of miffed about that. Like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how this is going to work out too. Now that Keisha's been found and she's kind of traumatized, and even towards the end of the episode, the nurse was coming to Dre saying, you know, you're going to have to work with her. I have some information about trauma and even about like a lot of people who deal with this kind of stuff being suicidal. So you're going to have to watch her. And then the fact that Dre and Keisha already have like this kind of this relationship that's kind of rocky. So I'm like, is Dre really going to be able to provide the necessary support that Keisha needs, considering they already have like a bad, you know, history? And then on top of that, with Dre kind of being insensitive at times.
Well, I think the light of that moment is when Keisha reached out to Dre to grab her hand, and I think that said a lot about moving
that
forward.
was an olive branch.
Yes, it was, and she extended that, and it was accepted, and I think that says a lot about how they move forward. One of the sticklers that I have is, okay, I wasn't expecting, you know, a parade for Ronnie for doing what, you know, what he did, and I still expect something, you know, but I thought it was rather lackluster that nobody seemed to care that Ronnie was in the hospital and he was the one that saved Keisha. And I was happy to see Kevin at least go in and, you know, and say, hey, thank you, because, you know, they've had their bouts. And so, but I was expecting a little more, you know, from.
I think it's coming. I think it's coming
too. I think it was big of Kevin to go in there and do that, because, you know, think about all that's transpired between all of them, and the fact that Kevin even shot him before. Yeah. You know, they have a very complicated history. So, you know, the fact that Kevin went in there and said thank you and everything, I think I was like, okay, he's growing up fast, and I really respected that.
Very true.
And just to piggyback to something that Tiara said about the Dre thing, I found it interesting that, you know, when the nurse told them the way forward with the counseling and what they need to do to help Keisha along, we find out that Dre was a high school like guidance counselor. So I was really surprised by that. So I was like, so why would you then be the one to say it's time to move on and pack up? Because she obviously she has a counseling background.
Well, at least we know what she does for a living. Because that was my other question. Just what do you do, Dre? Because you're always around. You got money, but we didn't exactly know how she was making it. But now I guess we do know.
Yeah. That was
my other question. Oh, go ahead, LaWanda.
No, it was just what we had talked about it before, that if Keisha came out of that, we knew part of her storyline was going to be dealing with this trauma. And so in addition to her probably being sexually assaulted, which we saw her having to kill her kidnapper, that she's going to be doubly traumatized. So it's going to be a trip to see how that plays out in the household dynamic, particularly with her mom, who, you know, is going to be happy to have her back and doting. I can see that the household is about to take another loop, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, it's interesting too, because she had that noose, you know, she was about to catch in, you know.
Yeah.
And so I guess in her healing, you know, you have to remind her it was life and death. You're either his or yours.
Yeah.
And you chose right. You know, you chose to get up out of there and live. So, you know.
I think if Ronnie had been a few more days later, it might have been a different outcome. She might have killed herself.
Or an instance, an hour or so later, because it seemed like she was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I thought about when I seen this episode is because, like, a lot of times, women that end up killing their abusers, they end up becoming, you know, the bad guy.
The oppressor.
And so I don't know why I thought about like the Centoya Brown situation, and I know that this show is bringing light to a lot of issues, and I was like, I wonder if that's a road that they would go down, where like maybe Keisha gets prosecuted for the murder of her own abuser. And so I was like, I hope that that's not. Well, I mean, it's a real topic, but I was like, Keisha has already gone through enough. I hope it doesn't really go down that path.
Now that would be a real stretch, and I mean such a stretch that I'm ready to take to the streets and boycott that, because I mean that, you know, I mean you can't, you can't get any clearer self-defense issue than being
right.
kidnapped.
And in fact, she had a witness because Ronnie was there.
Exactly. I mean, here you are kidnapped for what, weeks on end.
2 months.
2 months, and you happen to get away because you killed the your oppressor. Oh no, I'm going to Chicago and start protesting myself.
Yeah.
Hey, Tiffany, you mentioned something about Kevin too. You talked about how he's having to grow up faster. And so this episode with he and Gemma, it looked like they were having. He was giving her the cold shoulder. He quickly changed his tune when she invited him over to her house.
Do you all see the power you all have over us?
Right, I mean, that's what I said. I was like, oh, look, you see how men are? Look, he what, 14, 15?
Not how we are, how we're built. I mean, you all.
Right.
She was. He was all ready to call it a day. And she was like, come here, let's come to my.
He ain't had none before, and he was ready to go all out.
Yeah, I was about to say Kevin was about to grow up real quick until Dad bust up in there.
I don't know. I had a different feeling about that. I had a different feeling about that because it still makes me a little uncomfortable the way that they sexualize kids because they're still minors.
Right.
You know, so I'm even I don't know if it's coming age or whatever, but that part of it still makes me uncomfortable because I don't want to see children doing that. But being as a girl, that if you have a fight with your boyfriend, the way you make it up is that you have to give them sex. I'm gonna make you like it again.
I felt that way too. It was like it seemed like it was like a Hail Mary. Like he's not talking to me, so I got to do this to get him back on my side. Yeah. So I was glad that Dad came in there and bust things up. I
mean, I get it, it's cute, but at the same time, it's like that's the compromise that you make as a young woman that, oh, you're mad at me, so I have to give you something so you'll like me again.
Right.
Well, yeah, you can look at it that way, or you can think of it a little more sadistic.
Listen to the man.
I get it.
She knew what she was doing. Okay? Yeah. She wasn't forced. You know, she knew what
Nobody's saying that.
We're not saying that.
No, I know you're not saying that, but I'm saying from looking at it from your angle, I'm looking at it from the angle, she got cards and she played her card and, you know, and it won. That hand won. It won big time. So whatever he thought he was going to do with her, that's all been squashed.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I thought too is I'm like, okay, even if they were studying, and well, maybe Jemma didn't expect her dad to come home, but I was like, even if they're studying, what these kids doing behind closed doors, studying in her bedroom? Yeah. They should have been studying out in the living room, in the den, wherever. Yeah. I was just like, wait a minute. And she could have boys back in her room.
And then with the door closed?
With the door closed, I said, maybe I'm old fashioned. I'm like, what?
And then
that was not happening up in this household. I know that was But sometimes these privileged families can get away with a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, Pops came in there and busted up.
But then you know what was funny? What was funny was Kevin did a former George Bush routine, reading the damn book upside down.
Not only was it not the French book, but it was upside down.
Geometry book, yeah.
And his clothes were so untucked. I was like, hey, y'all gotta have better game than this. Y'all got caught.
That was straight. Gemma brought her A game with that. She cleaned up real quick. It was Kevin.
Yeah, all over here, shirt untucked. I was like,
I was like, he looking suspect.
I'm telling you, y'all women, y'all got it hands down. She was clean. She was ready.
Yeah, she was. She was back at the desk.
Had a storyline. Had a storyline, and the one that blew it was Kevin.
Yeah.
He was wrong book.
And Dad came flat out and asked him too, and he just about peed his pants. But
you talking about being saved by the bell.
Yes,
I was thinking the same thing. He was saved by the bell with the call.
Yeah. But I was thinking about Gemma's dad and his role this episode with Otis and Camille. And I don't know how I felt about that situation where he was pretty much telling one of them that they had to drop out of the campaign. What did you guys think about that? Because it seemed like it couldn't be two Black candidates.
Well,
right. And then he was like, I'm going to back him because he's like me. So I'm like, so he automatically chose the male candidate.
I was about to say the sex.
Number one. Yep. Number one.
Well, not necessarily colorism, but it's definitely a racial issue there.
The
background
I didn't see the racial issue, but you know, I can't.
Well, them saying that there could only be one black candidate because otherwise.
Well,
I think I probably agree with that they're going to split the black vote, and you don't want that. So they do need to pick one. I just think that's a numbers game.
Exactly. That's just political warfare. I got that. I saw that. I was a little suspect with you choosing the male, or were you not choosing the lesbian?
The woman. Yeah, I guess he didn't think that she was, you know, he didn't want to be that progressive or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
and Camille kind of brought that out when she was mentioning Shirley Chisholm and how the men did her back in the day.
Oh, look. I mean, she can spit words. I mean, I love her dialogue. I mean, she's on it with that. But I mean, let's face the reality of the political scene. You know, the question is, would they have been ready for that? And could they lose because of it? So I guess when you're looking at politics, you have to come down to those things. It's how brutal it is, no matter how brutal. But those are issues that you have to concern yourself with.
Or listen, they say that most people vote for people that they like. It's not necessarily about qualifications, that a lot of times people just vote for who they like or who, I guess, they see themselves as. So as misogynistic as it was, he as a man and said, I'm voting for somebody that's like me, which is generally how most people vote.
People do vote like that.
Yeah, the most not necessarily their interest, but something superficial like that.
Right.
Well, I thought it was funny what she said about Rose. Like, I saw her looking at me. I can take off your hands. I was dying. I said, oh.
Yep. And we learned where Otis's trust issues come from, because apparently Rosalind had slept with his secretary.
Yeah.
And I bet you Camille knew that. And I think that's why she said what she said.
I think so. I really do. Because that was a great line. That was a great line.
But you know what? I think eventually, Camille gonna be the one to end up on top, because I don't think Douda gonna make it to the mayoral house or whatever. I think this is my prediction. I think Jake gonna take him out.
And Rosalind told him that
Jake has gotten some, his chest has gotten pretty big over, from the last episode. I mean, the way he started talking to Douda, I'm like, okay.
Tariq has gotten into his head.
Yeah.
He killed his brother. I mean, he's like, you killed my family.
Yeah.
And Otis had to own up to that. I mean, he actually came out and admitted to, his involvement, which I think was the right way to go, because again, Tiffany, you like to go back to power, how, Ghost wasn't up front with Tariq. And I'm like, okay, this could have been another situation like that, where maybe if Douda wasn't up front with Jake, it would have increased the tension. And so the fact that he maybe came out and said, okay, this is what, maybe he kind of won some cool points there. But not necessarily, because that's still his brother that you killed. Right. So it's like,
I mean, the admission, I mean, to admit it, maybe just gave.
He said he turned his back on him in a war. Like, he didn't have his back. He let him get killed. He knew that was going to happen.
But then he kind of like stroked Jake's ego, saying, you could be a mayor. Like, I don't think Jake has ever had somebody look at him in that way and say, like, you can be anything but somebody in the streets. To say that, I see myself in you. I see that you could possibly be the mayor of Chicago one day. I think that might have won Douda some points in saying, like, I realize the potential in you and the greatness that I see. So I don't know. It really could still go either way.
And I believe Douda. I believe that is what he sees. And
I think he does. He said reminds him of himself.
Yeah, I believe that.
I believe that too. But just like Douda is not gonna make it to the house, like Ghost, who did not make it to the gubernatorial house. I think Douda is gonna have a similar fate.
Don't speak too soon, Tiffany. We talking about Ghost. Ghost may not be dead, so let's save that for
next,
Power Book 2.
Power Book 2. Yeah, let's save it. We don't know yet.
Okay. As far as we know. Right. The other thing that I thought was kind of cute this episode was Papa, and how concerned he was for Aisha and her situation with her mom losing her job and she having to miss school to babysit her siblings. And he finally did go and confront his dad about the money.
We knew that was going to happen.
Yep, we knew it. Yeah, because he really had been struggling about that. Like you said, this money was supposed to be for people in need. Well, here they are in need. So what's the problem?
Yeah, these kids are stepping up in this show. I like the way he confronted his father, because his father wanted to beat him down, but you know, he gave his father that. I mean, Papa is. I love the young man. He's you know, he can think on his feet and quickly. You know, so
he was like, "What's in your heart, Dad?" I said, "I heard that, Papa."
Yeah,
he threw his words back in his face.
He sure did. He sure did.
Yeah, I did like that they also addressed the issue of like these kids having to take on adult responsibilities because of like maybe the hardships of the parents, and her mom like seemed like she was too prideful to accept help. But at what point do you put your pride aside and say like, this is affecting my kid? She's having to grow up way before she needs to. She's missing out on school, and God knows how that could mess up her future. Yeah, so it's like that's common in our community sometimes, where people are too prideful to admit they need help. So I don't know, I was glad to see that, and I was glad to see her accept the money.
Yeah,
well, I mean, reality is a heavy thing to carry around. So
and reality was, I looked around, I was like, wait a minute, it's what, 3-4 of them jokers over there besides my Aisha. I was like, oh, sis, you better grab that envelope.
And which she
right.
did, she did a second count, and I think she was.
I was like, "What you talking about?"
Yeah.
Well, the next person that they might need to be doing a fundraiser for is Emmett.
Because that
boy.
Oh my Lord!
I couldn't believe that. I just
what can we do
with
Emmett? What can we do with him?
Look,
I don't
we
know.
saw
That's
that
kind of
coming.
cutthroat.
I told you we didn't need the psychic to know that Emmett was getting ready to get it on.
Right.
Emmett has already lost his job. Mom about ready to put him out, and if Tiffany ever finds out what went down with Dom, he gonna be down and out for real.
Oh, she gonna find out. She gonna find out.
I mean, what do you think about that? Him going to have Sonny evicted? I thought that was crazy and kind of stabbed him up.
That was so foul.
Yeah, that was foul. Very foul. But I mean, it was a shrewd business decision.
After all Sonny had done for him, I could not get down with that.
There are no friends in business. There are no friends in
business.
Well,
they're gonna end up having to work together anyway. Watch.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Yeah, because he was trying to keep the business name the same. So as long as you're using Sonny's namesake, he has to get some profit.
Exactly.
But
to
undercut him is the problem. It's so shysty the way he did it.
Yeah.
It was. Because he could have really just gone back and apologized and offered him the same deal. You know what I mean? Yep. But to go behind his back to the landlord, I was like, okay, Emmett, what do you expect to happen to you next?
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting how Emmett found out that Sonny might have been losing the business. We knew that he was behind on payments, but it looked as if from the landlord's perspective that he was going to lose it anyway. So from a business perspective, I like Emmett's thinking. He is shrewd. He does what he has to do for business sake, and there are no friends in business. So from that perspective, I got it. But from, the perspective of Sonny, gave you, a chance, and you can't just go behind him and stab him that way. That's
well, maybe his thinking was that once he got secured the business, that he would then go back to Sonny and say, listen, I saved the business, work with us. And I'm not saying it's right on any front. I think the way they did that was foul. When I watched, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Well, this is a habit with Emmett because he did the same thing last season to Brandon on the food truck selling weave out the back of the truck.
Exactly.
And I'm like, so you have a habit of like doing your own thing and hoping it works out for the best and then filling, somebody else in like, oh, I did this to your business. Like that's not the way to do it. Yeah. And it's a habit for him. Yeah, and he even did it to his mom in this episode where it was like, oh,
they gotta go.
Can we stay till the end of the year? Like he was waiting till, trying to wear out his welcome. He mentioned anything basically.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, first off, I mean, they blowing up the spot. You know, mom don't even have no privacy, no nothing or whatever. My son felt the way because he felt Tomas hadn't been in the picture enough for him to voice his opinion like that. He was like, he's out of pocket. Like, why?
Yeah, he was.
I mean, you all haven't been together.
He wasn't wrong though, but he is out of pocket.
I think he was wrong. I mean, just, you know, look, you obviously Tomas doesn't have any kids, and you know, again, here we go again with family. Normal people aren't just so readily able to dispose of their kids or their family just because you say so. You know, so he should have had some thought behind what he was about to say.
They could have gone to Tomas. Why they can't go to Tomas' house?
Yeah,
that was the next question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where they should have.
I mean, I'm not saying he was right in what he said, but when I say he wasn't wrong, he wasn't his perception of the situation wasn't wrong. Like Emmett is a user.
But
he was definitely out of line in what he said.
Right. I believe what you're saying here.
I believe this is his first time seeing Emmett and even meeting him. So how do you tell somebody what to do when it's your first time meeting their child?
And that's a major point. You know, that's the first time you lay eyes on him and you're telling his mother what you should do with him.
And clearly you don't understand Black culture and the relationship.
I was going to say that.
And their son. I was like, no, you completely misreading this.
I was going to say it's a cultural thing too, because, you know, he's not understanding that.
So let's see how long he sticks around. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, that's our first glimpse that
that should have been our last glimpse, you know. Because, you know, if he has that attitude now, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. Now, what Jada said early in the episode to Ronnie, she told him that he had a drinking problem and that he needed to stop and sober up now. And Ronnie seemed to take that to heart when he, you know, told the guys at the bar later that evening, like, no, I'm not drinking, I'm trying to be sober. What do you see in the future for Ronnie? Do you think he can maintain his sobriety? Do you think the community can welcome him back with open arms, and maybe will he even pursue the job opportunity that his friends were talking about in Springfield?
I think he can. I'm really hopeful on that. I did have one question as to why he didn't ask his friends to help him with the Keisha situation.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I told you you needed reinforcements.
Yeah, you needed reinforcements because, see, that would have went down an entirely different way. But I think he can clean up. I think he wants to clean up. And most importantly, he wants to, you know, live right because of his grandmother. So I think that he's on course. He just has to find new friends. He has to find people that'll help him with this because it's a long road.
One of the funny things that I thought was when Jada said, when Ronnie said, when we were together, she was like, we was never together. I said, I heard that. I said, clarify some things, Jada. He's like, no, because it was a first date and he came drunk. So like, no, bro, we weren't together.
Yeah. It's funny.
Oh no, he has, you know, he has every reason to change now. He's actually accomplished something. People may celebrate him. So he does have a reason to see himself differently. So, and his grandmother is not there. So if he doesn't do it, he's going to really end up on the street. He really has nowhere else to go now.
Yeah, because we talked about this last week where we were kind of speculating, like, could he make a turn for the worse since his grandmother's passing? But it seems like he took it very well. And I guess like just the legacy that she left behind is kind of like helping him to cope. Even
I think that last night too.
In the bar. Yeah, and the fact that he got a little bit of closure.
Yeah, that they had a wonderful night before she left. I mean, it's gonna be a process, him grieving and everything like that. But I mean,
but he's got something to bank on. You know, he's got something to hold on to. So I think you're right. That night he spent with her was one in a million. You know, you can't throw that away. And so if he just lives on that alone, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah. The only thing I think I was disappointed with this episode is the fact that it was so kind of predictable. Like everything that we have been predicting, it happened. Yeah. Even down to Emmett cheating. It's like I was hoping that they would throw a twist in there and be like, you know what, Emmett is trying to be an upstanding man. He gonna turn Dom down. But it's like No, he fell into the trap.
The
so I was like, that's the only thing. It's like, it's so predictable.
The writers
pulled away for half a second, but she snatched him up.
And that probably because he needed a mint. But other than that, he was all ready for that. I think the writers must be listening to our show, because I said the same thing to myself. I'm like, wow, we could have written this whole episode ourselves, from what we came up with.
Yeah. So that was the only thing that kind of like disappointed me. I'm like, just, throw us for a rent, like change it up. Don't go where we're thinking it's going to go.
But for me, if Emmett hadn't done anything, see, that would have been speaking volumes,
But think about how that complicates their business now. The fact that they have been intimate. And the fact that if Tiffany finds out, she's not going to want him working with Dom. And then boom, there goes his livelihood. He doesn't have another source of income because his baby mom don't want him working with the chick he's stuck with. Yeah. So it's like he's making like such amateur decisions. Yeah. And he's supposed to be showing growth, and he's not. It's like he's going backwards now.
And Dom doesn't seem like the kind of person that you can say, okay, that was a mistake.
Right.
Exactly. No, she would dangle that over his head all day.
That was a bad decision for multiple reasons.
Yes.
It was. And they've been flirting all along. Because, she was throwing daddy in there and stuff, these past few episodes. It was going down. It was just a matter of time.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season holds, because we're already at episode 7. And so like now that Keisha has been found, and I guess we're going to continue to see, her process of how she deals with the trauma after the fact. But it's like, where did the rest of the storylines go? I mean, Ronnie is seemingly like on the path to doing better, but he's kind of resolved all of his issues, like his issue with his grandma. He's found Keisha and kind of like redeemed himself a little bit. So it's like, well, where does the story go from here? Like everything that was like a major conflict in the show.
Yeah, and how the community treats Ronnie afterwards too, because again, I think some sort of celebration for Ronnie would go miles in his recovery effort. So again, if they forget about him and he just gets, he's back on the street and nobody cares, he's going to go back to the bottle. It's going to go back to the things he knows. So I think from this point on, it's critical that he surrounds himself with people that are willing to help him and keep him, keep his thoughts and memories of his grandmother alive, become part of something, or move to wherever his friends were, but I don't see them as being good for Ronnie at this point, because their guys just want to go to the bar and drink, and Ronnie's going to fall into that if you're with them. So I think Ronnie's right.
They're young guys too.
Yeah, they're young, much younger than he is. So
those guys moved out of state anyway. So
yeah, but they still offer him the ability to come down and work with them. And if he were to do that, he'll just fall right back into his natural habit.
I'm just wondering though, because like we have 3 episodes left before the end of the season, and usually we're left with some kind of cliffhanger that leads us into the next season. So I'm like, well, now that most of the major points of the storyline have kind of been seeming like somewhat resolved, it's like, what else big can happen that'll leave us hanging?
That's why I'm saying it's the Trig, Jake, and Douda thing. I'm telling you, I think because they're building that up. If Jake is gonna have to choose between Douda and Trig, and it's already a beef. I really think that's gonna escalate. I think it's gonna be some type of war type thing. I think Jake might be the one, might be involved somehow. He might pull the trigger or whatever. I don't think Douda's gonna make it as the mayor.
And Trig.
Or Trig, one of them. I think Douda is checking out of here.
I used to took it out of my mouth. I think Trig might take Douda out.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a war type thing. That's gonna happen. I think what about Keisha, the rehabilitation is going to continue. What I want to know is if she's going to actually go off to school. Is she going to be so traumatized?
Oh, I don't know if college is good for her.
I know.
The strong sister.
My son said he saw a clip that was in a trailer, and she was running like she was running for track. He said we haven't seen that in any of the episodes, so he feels like she's going to go through the the grieving process and get stronger and be like resolved to go on to school. And I was like, well, we'll see. I said, because I really don't know that.
But she had a lot of
she
fight.
Go off to school right now.
Not now, but she had a lot of fight and resilience in her. So I think she'll recover real well from this. We got about 2 more minutes left, but I think she'll recover from this and move along and do go to school. I think she will. She wants, you know what, if I were her, I'd want to get away.
Well, I'm hoping just because this episode was so predictable that they really do some things that we haven't thought about in the next few episodes and kind of take the storyline and just in a different direction. Because it's all kind of predictable, you know, to a certain extent, that Douda thinks he's going to be mayor, but something is going to happen that's going to derail his campaign, and it could be getting taken out. So I'm just hoping they throw some surprises in there.
About a minute left.
Yeah, I hope so too. Okay. Well, I definitely did enjoy this episode, but like I said, I wanted it to be a little less predictable. But I'm definitely looking forward to next week as well and the rest of the season. So do you guys want to say anything before we close out?
I think I made my predictions. Yeah.
We're good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching us today. Give us your thoughts on this episode. Go down in our comment section and let us know your thoughts on how you felt. Also, be sure to follow us online at The Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you get notified every single time we post. And again, we are always welcome to having guests. So if you want to join us in conversation, just drop your name and information in the comment section and we'll get back to you.
Excellent.
But I think we got less than a minute, so we are going to call it a night.
Good night.
Thank you guys again. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.